We're live. Countdown. Hello, I'm Willie Bragg. Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show, where you get my unique analysis of politics from an economic, civil libertarian, and socialist economics, civil libertarian, anti-war, anti-racist, all around good guy point of view. Um, Well, I like to talk about the politics of COVID because, um, without trying to be partisan, but sometimes criticizing one side is necessary when one side is doing something, and I'm pretty damn equal opportunity when it comes to. Contrary to what people believe, I'm pretty damn consistent when it comes to how I dictate my criticism. So, yes, being a leftist here in the United States, I do criticize. Yeah, obviously, going to criticize Republicans. Overall, they have a broad-based ideology and point of view that I disagree with. That I think puts this country in a terrible direction. There are Democrats. There's the supposed progressive opposition. When they will either copy too much of what the Republicans do and be Republican light, or and manage to somehow do that, but then when they decide to go and get progressive, they get progressive in the area where it's not productive to where they do the over the top engaging in identity politics, would actually weakens the left because you're not sitting there addressing income inequality, and then you're sitting there fighting battles that in public relations you're not going to win. And so the left is what is called the left, and the Democratic Party is not left, by the way. It's not a left wing party. If you use the if you use the European Overton window of politics, as I keep saying, and I'm going to hammer this fact, that the Democratic Party here in the United States is actually to the right of the British Conservative Party, the Christian Democratic Party in Germany, and any other center-right party in the Western world, pretty much. And I'm going to hammer that fact until people realize that. The people on the actual right realizes that here in the United States, and until even Democrats themselves and whatever ideological flavors within the party realizes that. So, having all that said, I criticize both parties. I criticize fellow independents when they need to be criticized. There are even times where I go and buck heads with certain schools in an ideological point of view within some on the left that needs criticizing. I criticize them all. I mean, back in the 1990s, the first decade of the 21st century, I was sitting there criticizing the Tony Blairites within the British Labour Party for their bullshit. The same kind of bullshit that the Democrats were doing here under Bill Clinton through the Democratic Leadership Council. So I will, and I will criticize who I need to criticize whenever I believe they need criticizing. Having that said, I'm going to talk about Donald Trump. You remember that guy, President Donald Trump? Yeah, that guy. The thing about it is, I know that's a little polarizing. I had a conversation with one of my coworkers who actually subscribed to my channel when he found out I had a channel, so we were talking politics and everything like that, and we were talking about Donald Trump for a moment, and we kind of came to an agreement that Donald Trump doesn't really stand for anything. He doesn't really have a core ideology. He's really, doesn't. I mean, he's a bullshit con artist. He's a snake oil salesman. And that's what he is. I mean, he doesn't. I don't really believe he believes half the shit he says. And that that's part of it right there. Where if someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene says what she says, I'm just wanting to go and get angry and everything. When Donald Trump says it, even though if it's offensive, somehow it makes me laugh because I'm like, I know he doesn't believe in this shit, but then I should be angry because his followers are so dedicated to him, and he's a cult of personality in a lot of ways. So it's kind of a juxtaposition to be in when thinking about this man. Well, at a rally, hold tight here, give me a moment. At a rally in Arizona, I believe it was in Arizona, and I'm going to go ahead and retrieve that article because when I saw the headlines, I could not believe it, but then again, I can. So basically, it goes like this. It's a Trump's COVID and election falsehood at Arizona rally, January 16, 2022. The Washington. Let's see. During a rally in Arizona on Saturday, former President Donald Trump repeated his lie that the 2020 election was stolen and made other false claims about the pandemic and the attack on the Capitol on January 6 last year. Here's a fact check. What Trump said. The left is now rationing life-saving therapeutics based on race, discriminating and denigrating white people to determine who lives and who dies. If you're white, you don't get the vaccine. If you're white, you don't get the therapeutics. Fact, there is no evidence that white Americans are being denied to vaccines and treatments. Let me see here. We'll get back to that article in a second. Let's see. Back in May, late April and late May, I got jabbed twice. And I had my booster shot about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, something like that. The last time I checked, I think when I look into the mirror, I'm like, what color am I? Let's see. My dad is of Scottish Irish heritage. Yes, that's my lineage on my dad's side of the family. Last time I checked, I think the Scots and the Irish are white. Let's see. My mom, I'm half Puerto Rican. Let's see here. My great-grandparents came from Spain, emigrated to Puerto Rico in the late 1800s on my grandfather's side. My grandmother's family, on my mom's side of the family, her ancestry is from the Basque region of Spain, and they emigrated to Puerto Rico. But, she was a darker-skinned woman. She's mixed with the Taino Indian. So when I'm thinking about it is that you got a grandfather who is a European Spaniard, white person from Spain, and a grandmother who is basically, half white, half Indian. Let's see. Let's see. I guess that still makes me technically white. Guess what? I got a vaccine. What the fuck is Donald Trump talking about? What the fuck is he talking about? There's no discrimination against white people. Trump referred to Wall Street Journal opinion column. Hold tight. Let me go and do that again because you need to see the graphics. Graphics are important, and so is my ugly face. Even though I don't want to see my ugly face. But here we go. All right. Let me get back to this. Trump referred to a Wall Street Journal opinion column criticizing the New York State's guidelines on too limited antiviral treatments to ask health providers to prioritize the therapies and uncompromised patients of those with risk factors. The guidelines, which were released in late December, said non-white race or Hispanic Latino ethnicity should be considered a risk factor as long as standing systemic health and social inequities have contributed to an increased risk of severe illness and death from COVID-19. I mean, let's see. State officials have defended their guidelines by citing data from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, which shows that Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans are about twice as likely to die from COVID than white Americans. A spokesperson for New York State's Department of Health told Fox News that race did not disqualify patients from treatment, but the guidelines instead consider race as one of the risk factors. Da 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 da. Well, and I will put down the link in a few moments here. I'm going to go ahead and do that here. Let me put that on copy so I can remember to put down the link in a few minutes. When this in the description box, you can read the article for yourself. So I'm going to go and do one of these. Give me a moment. Okay, I'm back. It didn't sound like there was an overt, it didn't sound. They didn't sound anything close to being reverse racist. There's and this whole notion of trying to vilify, and it just makes me think that's just a latest version of this shit. This dog whistle of anti-white racism that you keep hearing about. It makes me think of this from the 1980s. If you don't know what this is, on the left is Vice President George Bush from the Ronald Reagan time period when he was president. On the right is Governor Michael Dukakis of Massachusetts. In the center is a man by the name of Willie Horton. This was from the 1988 presidential campaign. And what Donald Trump said in 2021 is pretty much what George Herbert Walker Bush was saying in 1988, which is really odd because George Herbert Walker Bush voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 and I don't know if he was still alive last year when Trump when it was the election, but I know he was a never Trumper. If he was alive, he probably would have voted for Joe Biden. I don't know. I know that he and Barbara Bush were anti-Trump. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, 1988, and I do not think the Vice President George Bush was a racist. In fact, he has a history of being an old Rockefeller Republican, and that was his brand. He was actually a liberal Republican until he ran for president in 1980, and when Ronald Reagan chose him as his running mate, then he took the right-wing politics and embraced it. Again, I'm tired of people who are really deep down not ideologically married to the right-wing brand, but they go and embrace it to feed an irrational base of people that should not even be placated to begin with. But anyway, let me get back to what I was saying. Governor Michael Dukakis was a rather down-the-line, mainstream Democratic governor in a state that is, maybe fairly liberal. And the thing about it is that they use the geography also to demonize Michael Dukakis. Oh, Michael Dukakis, the Massachusetts liberal because George Herbert Walker Bush's family all lived down in Texas. Motherfucker was born in Connecticut and went to Yale University. Yeah, I mean, he was just every bit as much of a Yankee and a Northerner as Michael Dukakis. He's a stuffy country club Episcopalian Republican type. And there's, I mean, he is the embodiment of that. But he decided to go and sound like a rebel-rousing, right-wing redneck nut job instead, because that's what sells in the Republican Party these days. It doesn't. Being Thurston Howell III doesn't sell in the Republican Party anymore. What sells is being Phil Robertson from Duck Dynasty. You want to appeal to the Duck Dynasty people, and you don't want to give the Thurston Howell III impression. And really, honestly, George Herbert Walker Bush and his idiot son, George W. Bush, are both more of the Thurston Howell III from Gilligan's Island fame. Same thing with Mitt Romney and people like that. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying. He went and campaigned on Law and Order, saying that Michael Dukakis allow Willie Horton to go and to go on these weekend furloughs, and he went out there and raped some woman or something like that. We don't want that sort of thing happening here in the United States. So, and these commercials emphasize and show how black Willie Horton was. In other words, Bush was trying to say that you elect Michael Dukakis, he's going to let all the black criminals out of jail, and the streets are going to be riddled with crime or what have you. I mean, that's pretty much what George Herbert Walker Bush was saying. And the truth be it is that Michael Dukakis was trying to get rid of the furlough program. He never invented the furlough program. The furlough program was invented by a Republican governor in the early 1970s, and it was nobody was sitting there saying that criminals should be put on weekend furloughs. At least at that time, they weren't saying that. And the thing about it is that I'm going off into this tangent about the 1988 election because this was actually my first vote in 1988. I voted for Michael Dukakis in 1988, and I'm glad I did. I've always hated the Bush family, but anyway, it made me so mad that all these fucking advisors to Michael Dukakis would not answer back on the racist ad charges by the Bush campaign people, Lee Atwater and all those motherfuckers. So the thing about it is that he allowed the Republicans to just walk all over him, and to the point that not only when he lost the election, but when I joined the College Democrats at East Carolina a couple of years later when I was at ECU, I told my fellow College Democrats that I voted for Michael Dukakis in 1988. They looked at me like I lost my mind. You have some of them even saying, if I would have been old enough, I would have voted for Bush, or you like Michael Dukakis? I was actually the most left-wing person in the College Democrats at ECU. So, anyway, not that I'm saying Michael Dukakis was far left, but he's certainly better than Bill Clinton, and who couldn't wait to put an African American man to death while on the campaign trail. Bill Clinton had a terrible record as governor with the usage of the death penalty, and Hillary Clinton using the terms of predator and things like that. And then you have in a situation with you got fucking Joe Biden, who it was called the Biden crime bill for a reason in 1994, and that it incarcerated a lot of black people unnecessarily. I mean, and all of that, and for all the people that want to sit there and finger point at Donald Trump for saying racist things, and he has says it's racist things. But it's like the Democrats are not short on it themselves when it's politically expedient to do so. I'm talking about the white Democrats especially. So, but there is no discrimination being waged against white people with regard to vaccines, which is really odd to say that because most of Donald Trump's supporters are opposed to the vaccines themselves. Now, wouldn't it be a hoot if Donald Trump's maybe Donald Trump's mind trying to trick some of these white folks who are vaccine skeptic to go and take the vaccine? Maybe it's his weird way, because I know he's vaccinated, and he is on record of supporting the idea of getting vaccinated. As I said, I don't believe he's the nutcase that many of his supporters are. So I'm just, just a perspective I decided to share with you. But there is no discrimination being waged against white people with regard to withholding the vaccines from them. As I said, the last time I fucking checked myself, I think I was considered a white person. So, and I got jabbed. So I mean, and I got, as I said, I got jabbed twice, and I had the booster shot. So and God willing that I will not get get the COVID virus. But the thing about it is, another caveat to this is, this whole idea of we're going to mandate vax. Yeah, well, in some areas, I don't think it's going to be mandate with the Supreme Court ruling and all of that, and everything, and what to do and how to take on this virus, and especially with the Omicron variant that's taking place right now. But I want to say that it's funny because I also have heard this bullshit in the past that universal health care, all that's going to do is just going to give it to people that don't work. And usually when people say that, they're usually really under the breath saying black people, brown people. Tim Black has pointed that out, that we don't have universal health care because there is a level of racism. The idea of giving something free to not just the population, everybody. Universal health care is race neutral. But for some reason, when people talk about universal health care, oh, you just want to give it to those people that don't work over there. And they usually mean black and brown people. And, and people who like to go and put a black and brown face on welfare don't even realize this. That there's a lot of white people on social programs. There's a lot of black people and brown people who are self-sufficient. And honestly, really, the welfare question is race neutral. Welfare was created to help those who are in need. Sometimes they're white people, sometimes they're black people, sometimes they're whatever. It's race neutral. There's nothing racial about welfare. And as I said, people just assume that if you're a black person, you got a food stamp card. And I have seen white people with food stamp cards, and there are white people on Section 8 housing. Well, people always want to make the assumption when the subject of welfare and social program spending comes along, anything other than Social Security and Medicare, and even with Social Security and Medicare, which is very, very race neutral. Even the conservatives know it's race neutral. They want to find ways to go and kind of gut it and phase it out. So, this is what we're dealing with here in this country. And we got a very ass-backwards country, folks. But anyway, I just want to go and feed that out to each and every one of you about that. Now, right now, we have a chat line. And let's see here. We have Wizard Frobaz. Let's see what you got to say here. Thanks for breaking things down the way you do. I don't agree with everything, but that's par for the course, and doesn't distract from your general positions. Now, I try to be fair. When it comes to my critique. And again, when I run across too many people who are on my side of the fence that make it a red team, blue team sort of deal, and they think that if you voted for Trump, that you're just every worst conceivable thing that one could think about another person. That's what they want to think of when they think about people who voted for Trump. Now, there's a lot of people that voted for Trump that voted for Obama twice. And I think if you voted for Obama, if you're a white person, you voted for Obama twice, I think that you are probably not going to be like, oh, I don't know about a person of color being a person, Now, some people are going to say, well, yeah, but you're critical of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, not because he's black. I'm critical of Clarence Thomas because his politics is not my politics. Again, I have said this many, many a times, that when I criticize Ben Shapiro, it's not because he's Jewish, it's because he's Ben Shapiro. When I criticize Dave Rubin, I don't criticize him because he's Jewish and gay. I disagree with him politically. When I criticize Candace Owens, it's not because Candace Owens is an African American. It's because I disagree with her politics, and I'm fair across the board. If I, it's it. And when I disagree with Steven Crowder, it's not because he's a white guy. It's because Steven Crowder is Steven Crowder. When I disagree with Hillary Clinton, it's not because she's a woman. It's because she's Hillary Clinton. When I disagree with Kamala Harris, it's not because she's an African American woman. It's because she's Kamala Harris. Her father, Donald Harris, who was the economic advisor for Michael Manley's socialist government in Jamaica in the 1970s and 80s, is a man that I respect a great deal. I don't respect Kamala Harris, but I respect Donald Harris, her dad. Her dad is freaking base. So I'm just saying, I like to judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Now, do I give a damn that Ben Carson, for example, was African American? I disagree with him. I think he's a nice guy. But, I disagree with him, and guess what? It's okay. It's okay. You can belong to a minority group and you can have any ideology you want. You could be a pasty-ass white person and have any ideology you want. I don't care. It's all good. You as an individual. We're all not a monolith. We're all individuals, and we have unique experiences in our lives that dictates where we are currently. And, as I said, I try to be fair, and I'm being long-winded again. Let's see. And I apologize for that. Hot retarded chicks, hey, how are you? I'm always glad to see you pop up here. Purple team, all the way, man. Well, I like what Ron Placon said. And Ron Placon has said this, that purple team, and I think of bipartisanship. Bipartisanship is not always a good thing, and and he basically said usually bipartisanship in Congress means the Republicans have got a bad idea and the Democrats go along with it. But I know that there are Republican activists that would say the same thing about Democrats. They come up with a bad idea and the Republicans go along with it, and maybe there's a little bit of truth from both directions. So sometimes a purple team is okay, sometimes not. I'll give you an example of a purple collaborative effort that's positive. During the Bush years, Ron Paul from Texas, Republicans with libertarian leanings, I respect a great deal. Dennis Kucinich of Ohio, Democratic congressman, one of the most left-wing Democratic congressmen at that time. They worked together. They liked each other. They worked together to put a stop to the Patriot Act, and they were opposed to the Iraq War. And they both questioned the bullshit in the Republican leadership and the Democratic leadership. So, and today, right now, you got Mike Lee of Utah, a person I virtually agree with on zero issues most of the time. And you got Bernie Sanders, who, even though I'm a little bit critical of, he's still one of the people I admire most in Washington, D.C. today. Guess what? They're working together. They have been working together to put a stop to armed sales of military hardware to Saudi Arabia. To what? To go and to commit a genocide in Yemen. So, I mean, as I said, Rand Paul and Mike Lee, they're working with lefties, people like Bernie Sanders and there was another left-wing member in the Senate. I can't remember right now. But the point I'm trying to make is there's work across the board. Even down in U.S. House, Ro Khanna, who's, I would say, if one is going to say who are the better people in Congress, I was argue, even though I'm critical of the Democratic Party, I still argue Ron Khanna is one of the better members of Congress. And he's working with Matt Gaetz, who's basically a saner version of Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I don't agree with anything that Matt Gaetz has to say, except on some foreign policy issues. And they're working on some foreign policy issues, and they both do question bullshit on selling arms to Saudi Arabia, for which I say, hey, more power to them both, at least on that issue. Anyway, so I don't have a problem with Purple Alliance if it's productive, and it can be on the left's turn and even on the right's turn. If it serves both purposes, fine. My problem with bipartisanship and collaboration is usually, the right of center draw the line in the sand, and the left of center place patty cake and do that. And that was my problem with with Bill Clinton a whole lot in the 1990s. Let's see here. Pray for Tulsi. I wish Tulsi well. I just hope that I just hope that some of the areas where she's kind of disappointed me in the last year is temporary, and and all of that. That's what I hope. I would like to see her talk about the anti-war stuff again and kind of walk away from the culture war issues that I'm not very comfortable with at the moment. But you know, um, hot retarded chicks. I will say this: Tulsi Gabbard is no Marjorie Taylor Greene, and that's definitely a compliment to Tulsi Gabbard. So anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree with what I have to say, well, comment anyway. Let's see. Let's see. Comment anyway, and we'll have a conversation. Feel free to share the content on this channel. It's the First Amendment absolutist. It's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Feel free to also hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, make this channel grow, because I think it needs to grow. So anyway, and also not just my channel, other independent channels, and search around for your own opinions, and don't just get a second opinion, get a 20-second opinion. That's what I've always said, and I think that's the best way to go about things. So until next time, keep that red flag banner going. As they said in the song, raise the scarlet standard high. So anyway, free Julian Assange and keep that class struggle going. And I will conclude with, well, it's that time when I do this. So here we go. Y'all take care.